Street cred sports. Street cred sports. I'm crossing over. I'm Euro stepping.
Hello, this is Keenan of Street Cred Sports Training, and welcome to another episode of Time to Ball. This is episode 66. Yeah, it's not a popular number. I remember seeing a meme that said it was the total came out to $6.66. And then the person's like, yeah, now let me get a pack of chewing gum or something because let me change that total. I'm not buying something that was $6.66. I hope everybody's doing well. I'm starting to hit a stride, so it's getting warmer. Obviously, it's getting a little bit too warm. I apologize for the break, the unexpected break. I was supposed to be gone and didn't get out. So I'm back doing what I do. So let's get into it. Here are the things that interest me. You know, right before I get to the first thing, there's something I gotta ask my audience. Do y'all actually know how to open a new roll of toilet paper without destroying it? Because like when you get not napkins, when you get paper towels, they're easy, not as hard. You kind of pull it and open it. But toilet paper, when you're trying to open a new thing of toilet paper, it's like you gotta be a magician, and you end up just tearing it and ripping it and then rolling it to roll. So if y'all actually know if there's some directions on how to actually open it, could y'all please send your boy some help? Because I should have a class in how to open that, man. That thing is really, really, really difficult. All right, so let me get into things that interest me, games. Okay, so last time we spoke, I mentioned that I felt like Denver was in trouble with the way Minnesota played. Now, they made adjustments. Denver made adjustments. They just won, so currently they are up 3-2. And there are a lot of adjustments. So, like, if you're watching and you're kind of like studying and analyzing, you can see some of the small tweaks and adjustments. I've always said that Minnesota, okay, I've been look and I like Minnesota. I really want to like their team. It's just in the past they've done things that are like, man, what the hell were you doing? Why would you do that? Why would you make that foul? Why would you make that decision offensively or defensively? So I've always called, not all the players, but I've called it kind of a low IQ thing. And I'm not the only one. There are a lot of people in the league who watch and stuff. They say the same thing. It looked like Minnesota had, turned things around. And they have for the most part. They're not doing nearly as much, but they do have a few players that do some things. My question, I didn't think with the way the game is played today with space and pace and smaller lineups and stuff, I thought that Gobert would be a liability in the playoffs because, teams would hunt him. And what I mean by that is they would, go through pick and rolls until he came up, and then they would use it to go after him because he's not, he's athletic, but he's very slow-footed. He looks really clumsy and uncoordinated when he's moving his feet and his hands at sometimes. He's great at protecting the rim coming off the ball. Or just standing there when people come to challenge. But outside on the perimeter, you can tell he's not comfortable. And it's not his fault. He's never played, outside, so you can't expect him to be like that. But you would think he would do some things to try to get a little bit better. And there have been times that I've seen him on the perimeter, so I don't want to say he's never guarded on the perimeter. I've seen times. But in these playoffs, it's real specific. Now, one of the things that I noticed that Denver did was instead of having the guards bring the ball up, the Joker brought it up more. He brings it up, but he brought it up more, as well as Aaron Gordon. And what I thought that Denver was going to have to do was use Gordon in ball screen more with Jokić. This would bring Gobert out, and now he's trying to run in to contest shots and protect the paint, which is what he's accustomed to doing. And that put him a lot out of it put him out of position a lot of times. In the first two games, Gordon was up top, but I'd say 60%, 70% of the time he was down in that dunker's box area in the low post. And Gobert did a really good job in that. But since game 2, they've changed some stuff. They've also spread themselves out a lot more than what they normally do, and they've invited Minnesota to choose how they're going to guard them, right? And they're really surgical because they all understand what their role is, and you basically have 4 guys out there that can shoot. Okay, this is another issue that I had was Gobert is not someone that can space the floor and shoot. He's going to clog the lane, and it's going to allow them a lot of easier time helping because they don't consider him a threat to shoot from the 3. And it showed a lot more in these games where, guys are trying to post up and go into the paint, and they're not spaced at all. The best game they had was when Gobert wasn't there in game 2 because all of those guys could really shoot, and it made it difficult for them to actually help. Now, they were knocking down shots, guys that don't shoot as well, but you had guys that could shoot that were getting their shots. They've changed their rotation defensively and how they've guarded those things. Joker has just, really made it a point to go at those guys, and it has seemed personal. Now, the one thing I will tell you, and I am on the side of those who question how can a center, especially in today's game, be a defensive player of the year. Because centers really don't defend outside of the paint. And the way the game is shifted, those are usually going to be with guys who can defend the perimeter and also, like, I'll use Draymond Green for an example. When he was Defensive Player of the Year, yeah, because he could guard 1 through 5, right? There are going to be some players, like when Marcus Smart won it, he didn't guard 1 through 5, but he could guard 1 through 3 and sometimes 4, depending on what that 4 was doing. It's the ability to switch and be able to guard multiple positions that made that attractive. Gobert is having a hard time against Joker. Now, I've heard some people on some of these shows say, well, you can't guard, in basketball on offense, you can't guard a person who can really score. You just can't. Now, I'm not saying he's supposed to stop him. I'm not saying he's going to lock him down to where Joker's not going to score his points. Joker's going to get his points. But here's what I'm saying. It's not even as if he's bothering him. You're the Defensive Player of the Year. You're not bothering him at all. You're not making it tough for him to score. He's getting to anywhere he wants. And what I've known, when you watch guys like, look, my dealings, my conversations, you make it tougher on them. Yeah, they're going to probably get their shots. And as a really good defender, man, he's probably going to get this shot. But I'm going to make it tougher on him. If it's a 2-dribble pull up and he has, height advantage on me, it's going to be hard getting to that spot. Because I know I'll have to make it as difficult as possible. So when he rises up, he might not feel as comfortable as what he should. And then throughout the history of the game, you've seen certain matchups where you'll see certain offensive players say, yeah, I had a hard time against this guy. This guy really gives me problems. He doesn't stop me from scoring, but he slows me down and he makes it difficult. Gobert's not making it difficult, none whatsoever. He's standing up tall when Joker lowers into him. So his leverage is off, which is astonishing because you're taller than him. You know he's bigger than you. He was gonna try to bang on you, and you're not, forcing him to really take his time and really offer any resistance. If Gobert dropped about 6 inches on his stance, he should be able to make it harder for Joker to back him down. Now, obviously, he has all of these different moves, but you can keep him from lowering his shoulder and then guard those counter moves that he has. But or you can make it tougher, right? And that's all I'm saying. It doesn't look like Joker's having much of a time doing anything he wants, and that's to me that's sad because this is supposed to be 4-time defensive player of the year. They're a defensive team. Joker has had his way these last 3 games, especially game 5. It wasn't even funny. Now, the other thing, when you deal with a great offensive player, I've always said you make him work defensively. Joker's not working defensively. Joker's just sitting back like a safety and helping and reading and talking. Nobody respects Gobert. When Gobert sets a screen and rim runs, number one, his team's not throwing him the ball close to the rim or giving him the lie where he can just catch it up and shoot it. And he's often having smaller guys like Caldwell Pope or Jamal Murray or the smaller guards that are guarding him, and they're not throwing him the ball. So now you're a liability on defense. You can't make Joker respect you on offense. So now you're just kind of out there. Weirdest thing is when they played the Lakers, Joker had a harder time because, well, what they did is they switched a lot and they had Gordon guarding Anthony Davis. But Anthony Davis, when the Joker guarded him, Anthony Davis did what he wanted to offensively, right? When he guards Embiid, Embiid does what he wants to. There are certain teams that understand how to make matchups, and the Joker is not sleight of foot guarding. So when Golden State played him, they often had switches where he had to be out there on Steph Curry, and they're giving help, but because Curry could shoot for so far, it made it difficult. Now, obviously, you're not expecting Gobert to do it. I'm just saying you have to put pressure on them in different ways. They've put pressure on Minnesota in ways that, to me, seems like most people in the know, and Minnesota hasn't been able to respond. Let me get on this on the Joker subject. I was trying to go back and think to myself, like, certain errors, like there are certain areas where you'll have a guard. So let's say the age of the point guards. You're going to play, 10 to maybe 20 point guards in the league that can really go, right? So you're not going to have as easy of a time playing almost every night. You got a matchup where you're going to have to play D and you're going to have to play offense. Right? On shooting guards, that's usually the case. There's really, a lot of shooting guards in the league. Like, you can't really take nights off. I was trying to think I could only name really one or two that can truly play, that can offensively score other than the Joker, and that's Embiid. And then I went Sabonis for Sacramento, although he's not as he doesn't play as strong, with his scoring that can score on every level. But really Embiid. Now, why do I mention that? Because Joker is taking advantage. Obviously, he's going to take advantage of the matchups he has. But I've always been one, and it might be one of the reasons why I give Joker credit. I'm really starting to like his game, his unorthodox shooting, how he scores, he passes, and stuff. So it's all around game. The biggest issue I have with him is he'll play strong, but then he'll do some floppy stuff to create contact to get the foul, and he'll flail. That's the one thing I've always had a problem with today's players. I see it more with European players that they do that. I can show evidence. Now, American players are doing it a lot more because they're trying to get the calls, but Europeans seem to have the book on how to do it, right? But what I'm getting at with the bigs is the evolution of the game had changed to where it went small ball. Once it went small ball, now you don't have too many centers in the league that are really good, centers because teams are trying to do more threes and everything like Golden State. Well, now you have a couple of bigs that can dominate because not only can they shoot from the perimeter, they can handle the ball and they can post up and they can punish you. So the days back when you had, was it Shaq, Patrick Ewing, Lonzo, Dikembe Mutombo, Ben Wallace, David Robinson, Tim Duncan, that's just off the top of my head in that era. There were battles because with the exception of maybe Ben and Dikembe, they weren't as offensively gifted. They could score, but they didn't have like a lot of post moves. You had to play on both sides because well, that was a good move, but now you got to come down and they're gonna go to me and you got to guard me. So you had to play on both ends, and a lot of what I'm seeing is Embiid doesn't have to play on both ends. Joker doesn't have to play on both ends. When they're playing each other, they do. And that's when I love seeing them play against each other because Embiid really, really causes Joker problems. Joker has to guard him because you put other guys on him and he's so much bigger and skilled. It's like playing the same type of person, right? But I wonder if the age of the big man is going to, kind of come back because I figure the last 10 years there weren't any big men scoring and defending like Joe and Joker. I don't even know if he's a defensive presence. I mean, he's tall. I've seen him block shots. I've seen him get steals, but I don't know how much of a defensive presence he is. Is he an anchor? Because he plays in a collective group. Like, Embiid, I've seen Embiid just say, I'm going to lock this guy down, right? I haven't seen Joker lock down somebody. I've seen Embiid give Joker problems, and I've seen him give other guys problems. I haven't seen it as much from Joker. I'm not saying he can't. I just haven't witnessed it. So I wonder if the small ball has helped guys like Embiid and Joker at this point. And are we starting to shift back to big lineups and get away from the small ball things? In the next 5 to 10 years, will you start to see more big men, come up and be just as dominant? There are a couple of the kid in Houston is pretty special. I can't think of his name, but he's pretty good. The big. Now, staying on this topic, I do think that people who gave Rudy Gobert the Defensive Player of the Year after seeing the series might want they might want a do-over because he's getting cooked. He's absolutely getting cooked. I mean, there's no other way around it. It has been sort of embarrassing at times. I'm watching the body language of his teammates as they're playing and stuff, and they seem to see it as well. They say you can tell little things in how guys respond and what they're saying. Gobert was talking last night. His teammate, I don't know which one. I think it was Alexander, number 3. I can't pronounce his name, but he's on the podium with him, and he's just looking, and it's like he's trying to, he's smiling as he's talking, and it's this long smile where his facial expression doesn't change, but he's staring out, like he's just staring. And look, I'm not a mind reader. I'm just going on how body language can be sometimes, and it's kind of like, yo, man, he killing you, and I'm sure they're probably saying it, maybe not publicly because they're a team, but there's got to be concern that, hey, you're Defensive Player of the Year, and you're not even making him work. You got to make a guy work. So, yeah. Now, as far as low ball IQ, it is starting to rear its head up in some of the things that Minnesota does. The biggest culprit in that series for me has been Karl Anthony Towns. with his foul situation. He seems to foul, and there are lots of fouls where it's like, man, what are you doing? You're taking yourself out of the game. And then him wanting to shoot as opposed to posting up a little bit lower against the smaller guards. Now they're packing everything in and daring everybody to shoot them, but you got to get your guys the ball in certain situations where it's just a quick catch, turn, and shoot. Nobody's blocking it unless it's one of the bigger guys. But the adjustments I thought I would see out of I thought Denver would adjust after game one, but game two was bad. I thought Minnesota would adjust after game three, but game four was bad. They made some low ball IQ plays that came up and bit them. Game four was just a destruction. I mean, five was just a destruction. So I don't think, as presently constructed, if they lose this series the way they have, where it looks like they lose game six and it's like a 4-game sweep, after winning the first two, I don't know if they're going to keep that team together because I don't. Looking at that team, yeah, regular season they're gonna be good, and I know somebody alluded to Donovan Mitchell saying, look, when he played with Gobert in Utah, hey, regular season was good, but in the playoffs, he was being exposed because he was a liability. Now I don't know who they get rid of. I don't know if they can, but I don't think presently it's constructed that team is going to be able to get any further than what they have because to me you don't have enough. Your two primary playmakers, you got one that can just get his buckets anyway, and he's gonna keep getting better. Karl Anthony Towns is what he is. He's gonna shoot a three. He might drive. He might post you up a little, but he's a lot slower than what he needs to be. And when they kind of dig down a little bit more on those driving lanes, he really struggles. So they need another person who can space the floor, who's a knockdown shooter, and can get some extra, get his own buckets. The sixth man of the year they have, he's good for shooting. He can drive some, but they're not really running plays for him. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens if they lose game six. Okay, so let me move on to Caitlin Clark. She had her WNBA debut, and I'm not going to go into that part, but it is a little. I get it. I understand why there's a lot more hate. It's kind of gotten outside of sports with the hate that the young lady receives, and see, she didn't have a good game. She had 20. She had 10 turnovers. She didn't score those 20. Some of those that last 5 to 7 points might have been, what you might consider garbage time. Games out of hand, games, decided, and you keep playing and you get a few more buckets. What I've noticed. And this is why it's just kind of funny when I'm listening and watching how people are responding to it is they're playing her different. This is a rookie, and as she's coming off screens, they are doubling her. They are being really physical. They are playing at a playoff level defensively against her in her first game. Of course, she's going to take time to adjust. Look in college against the elite team. She started to see the double teams coming off screens when she's dribbling the ball, her tendencies and stuff like that. But you didn't always have the personnel that could execute that. These are professionals, so of course you're gonna have some more. So it's gonna take a little bit of time, to kind of figure out and see and understand and get her bearings straight. Didn't expect her to come out and have no 40-point game in the first. She's gonna probably have a few 30 points, I would think, this season. But her ability to pass, even though she has some turnovers, her ability to pass, she is seeing the floor, which she's always been able to do. She could pass her butt off. She's able to hook girls up, and those girls are going to be able to score, easily because they're going to be keying on her. It's gonna take them a little time, but I'm I'm so okay with where she is. It's a lot of hype behind it, and like I said, it's a little bit more than sports, and it's very disappointing because you know you got people on both sides that are just it's not about sports. And the girl is talented, and sometimes you can kind of see that it maybe all of this stuff weighs on her. You got people who appear to not be happy that some of these changes are going, and it's, oh well, it's not her. It's, like, come on, man, you bringing more attention to it. Appreciate it. Don't hate, congratulate. That's what we used to say back in the day. All right, last thing I gotta say is I listen to radio shows and stuff just because as I'm driving, I try not to listen to music all the time. I like to broaden your boy like to broaden his horizons when it comes to what's going on in the world today, right? And I listen to sports, mainly NBA stuff. And I'm of the opinion now, after listening to quite a few things, I don't think some people should be allowed to talk sports even if they've been in the sports world, even if they're quote unquote an analyst, they've been with the league for, 15, 20 years or something. I'm starting to think some of these people shouldn't be talking. I'm not gonna get the dude's name out, man, because because I'm just not now. If somebody messages me privately, yeah, I'll tell you. I'm not gonna give his name. If you listen to it, you probably heard what I heard. This dude said Devin Booker scored. Okay, was it this series? I think it was this series, or it could have been the last year playoff series. They were losing. It was the game. Was it game four? Game four. First of all, he said in a series, if a team is down 0-2, that the third game is the series. Meaning, if they lose, nothing else matters. Now he uses the reference of nobody's ever come back from down 0-3 in NBA playoffs. Okay, I get that. But to say that nobody like the other four or other games don't matter, to me you basically being disrespectful to those guys. Especially when you have a situation last year where he almost had to eat those words because Boston came back being down 3-0 and pushed it to a game 7, and they should have won game 7, but Boston being Boston, they 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 laid an egg in game 7. I wanted them to win so bad, obviously because it was going to be a better series against Denver, but so you could shut up because there were all people. Oh, no number one seed in the NCAA tournament has ever lost. Well, I think we've had 2 since that. So now you can shut up with that. It can happen. So it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. It could have been this Denver series. That's what I wish would happen is that Minnesota would have beat them, and then Denver come back and win the series, right? Just so you can shut up with that. But in any case, the thing he said about Devin Booker was the last game in the playoffs, they were down 3-0. They were getting swept. In game 4, or it was game 4 or 5, whatever it was last game, Devin Booker scores over 40. I think they said he had 45, 47. This dude said that was fake hustle. Like, because you were balling that last game and you lose and you end up getting sweep, you're not a clutch player, and you that was fake hustle. That didn't. And it's like I've heard people say fake hustle. So if you're not familiar with the term, fake hustle is a term that like you're trying to show that you're hustling for something. You're trying to show that you're playing hard, but you know it. So like for instance, if there's a ball that's rolling out of bounds, you're nowhere near that ball. There's no way you're going to be able to get that ball and save it. But you run hard and then you dive, and as you're touching the ball is already 2 or 3 feet out of bounds, right? But you're sliding, you're grabbing the ball and you're flailing like trying to throw the ball in, like you're looking like you're trying to make a play. that's usually what people call fake hustle. Like, come on, man, you knew you couldn't get that ball. Why are you making such, like, are you trying to impress your teammates or your coach? You look kind of foolish. That's usually what people go with fake hustle. Or if a person's way ahead of you on a layup, and you sprint down really hard, and as they're laying it up and the ball's going in through the rim, then you're suddenly jumping to try to hit the backboard like you had an opportunity to affect that shot when you know you didn't. Or on a closeout, guy's shooting the ball, he's wide open. You're 7 feet away from him as he's in the air shooting, and you still run out like you had an opportunity to affect the shot. That's what people tend to point to with fake hustle. I don't even understand what fake hustle would mean when you score over 40 points in a closeout game and you lose. Like, I would think, man, he was. Now, if you had 10 points the first 3 quarters, you're down by 30 points, and you scored 30 in that fourth quarter when nothing really, like, you getting your points, but I can see that. Now, I don't know the circumstances of the game because I was really about to tune it out. But the other guy on the show, because that other guy has played the sport, I tend to listen when that guy's on there. When that guy's not on there, I don't like listening to the show because this guy is more sensational, brings up these hot takes. And the crazy thing is he'll always refer to other people about their hot takes, and we don't do that here. And I'm like, yo, you was just talking about that. And the other guy gets on him all the time about stuff. And he was really adamant. No, man, that wasn't. And then he had people calling in, and people were agreeing with him, saying, yeah, that was fake hustle. And you can see clearly the guy that played, he just was like, yeah, nah, man. I like, some things I'm not going to argue with, because if you argue with somebody because you're trying to prove your point, and you see that other person is wrong. This is really why you should be arguing. You see that person's wrong, and you're trying to point out to them the flaw in their reasoning, so you can show them in a different way to maybe oh, you know what, I get it. But then you got people who, I'm going to die on this hill. Like, you're wrong, and you're still going to argue. I can't talk to people like that. I refuse to argue or speak with people like that, because to me, anybody who doesn't want to admit when they're wrong, when they know they're wrong, well, why are we talking? It's part of life. Look, when it comes to me and my wife, I'm never wrong. Nah, I'm just playing. It always feels like that when we talk about stuff, because I'm trying to get her to see it from a different angle, and and she's getting on me about not believing her and stuff. But if I'm wrong, I say, you know what, you were right. Now she might say, no, you don't. You don't never admit I'm right. But no, I do. I admit she's right. But it's just that most of the time I'm right. No, I'm just playing. But in any case, if you have a conversation with somebody and that person just is saying something, and you can almost tell that they're just like, they don't want to reason, no reason to talk to them. I could never have a conversation with this guy if I ever met this person in person, because there's some people that are like that. But yeah, I think that him and other people, some of the stuff they come like, man, yo, like, there should be an aptitude test that they take, and after that, oh man, you need to be drug tested for making that. You got to be smoking something, or you got to be on something to sit up here and say that. You lose credibility in my eyes to be able to talk reasonable because of those things. Okay, so let me get to my basketball ideology. The first thing I'm going to talk about is there a science behind training? Interesting term. Like, no, I don't mean like, is Albert Einstein or the Darwin effect, is that behind basketball training? The Pythagorean theory. That's how you get jump shots. All of that stuff. No, I'm not. I'm not going there. Theory of relativity. That's how you move around screens. I'm not talking about that. What I'm saying is there a science behind being able to fix things, show things. I believe there is. If you are truly somebody who knows how to teach, not everybody understands the science behind training. I understand it now that I've been a part of it and have been doing it. There is a science behind being able to mechanically show someone what they're doing wrong, being able to visually let them see it. Sometimes by them doing it slowly, sometimes by you demonstrating exactly what they're doing, and sometimes by actually filming them and being able to show them on film. Here it is right here. Now, when does that science kick in? The science to me kicks in when I'm actually being able to show them the correct way. Like, this is why you're doing this. Like, I'll give you an example. I was working with a girl yesterday. She's what? I think sixth grade, fifth or sixth grade. I think she's gonna be really good. She's got height already, and we was working on her ball handling, and we were, and look, some of the stuff I do, there's a science and a reason behind it. It might seem like, well, why are you giving this person this type of drill? Well, what I'm working on is certain things within the move. So, for instance, it was a sweep, it was a one dribble, it was a in and out crossover, right? And then you were sweeping going left, so it was a left hand bounce, in and out cross, and then you would take a dribble, one dribble with your right, and you would finish at the front of the rim with your right hand. Well, every time she was doing it, she would do the move, but then when she would go up to lay it up with her right hand, she had her left knee. So she was, like, am I doing it right? I said, well, you're finishing with your right hand, but you're going up with the wrong leg. And she wasn't really understanding what I said. So when she did it again, she paid attention to it, and she had this look like, oh, okay, I see it now. But then the next look was, well, I don't know how to fix it. So what I was explaining to her was her crossover. When she crossed, she didn't step in front with her left leg stepping through. She kind of skipped her feet, and then that caused a natural step when she took a bounce. So now she's bouncing on her right foot when she should have been bouncing on her left foot. Okay, if you can visualize it. So what I explained to her was, when you do this move, once you cross over, you must step through with your left foot and take that bounce. Once you take that bounce, now you're going to naturally go right, left, and you're going up with your right knee. Out of 10 reps she did it right, I think, 5 or 6 times. The other 4 to 5 times she didn't do it wrong. But she understood it. She could see it, and she was trying to fix it, and that's something I said, look, you got to continue to do it so you can fix it. So I'm bringing this subject up because as I pondered, I try to ponder every training after it's done, especially when I'm done with it, to ask myself, did I do a good job of addressing the things that they need? Did I do a good job with the drills that I had them to do? And, those type of things. And I was like, I was saying to myself, like, cause the mom was there, but oftentimes I can see how engaged the parents are when they're watching the training. It's almost like they're watching a documentary or a class sometimes, with the way, not all parents, some parents just, go out there and play foosball with your friends, while I'm on my phone. But a majority of the parents will sit there and they will watch, engage, and I tell parents it's good for you to see it, because when they execute it, you'll understand what they did and why. You'll see that progress, and it ultimately lets you know that what we're doing is working. But there are some parents that will just, it almost looks like they're paying attention to every detail, not because they're questioning, but because they're trying to see how it is that I'm fixing something that they couldn't fix when they try to talk to them. And often parents will say, like, I've been trying to get them to do this for like 3 months and you fixed it in like 5 to 10 minutes, and I'm appreciative of it. So I do believe that there's a science behind training, the ability to be able to fix. I do really believe that. All right. So next in basketball ideology, my question is, well, I get asked this, well, how much should you really practice? And what I mean is, I'm talking about from a training standpoint. If you come to us for training, you do your training, and then after you train, then you're gone. We don't see you for a week. Now, I've often said, and I'll say it again, some people say, well, yeah, we like them to come 5 days a week or, 3 or 4 times a week. And I tell them, no, it doesn't, they don't retain it. If you come Monday and then Wednesday, you've only had a day to work on what we did in between sessions. And by Wednesday, we're going to move on to something else. So when did you retain it? You're going to lose it. So you have to have, a week. I've always said a week to really work on those things over and over to become muscle memory, right? So then I get asked, well, how much should they be training? Now, I've always said, well, you should be practicing every day. But I understand that that's not realistic with today's world, with people having being on the go. If you're playing on 1 or 2 teams, if you're practicing, if you're playing games, you're going to school and all of that. So I just told parents, I said, you know what, if you can practice at least 3 times a week, an hour, at least 3 times a week, 1 hour each time, I think you're gonna, if you're working on one thing, that thing for that week, I think you'll be able to get enough to where you should get a better understanding. Now, I was always like, well, 6 to 7 times a week, but I understand that not everybody's going to be that aggressive. I'm not doing as many things as kids are doing today, but I found time. I was going to find time to do what I did, whether it was me being up to 10, 11 at night outside working on something. That's what I did. But, not everybody's going to have that time. So I have to understand it. So I basically said about 3. If you can go 3 to 5 times a week would be great. 4 would be a sweet spot. 4 times a week would be the sweet spot. But if anything, no less than 3. Now, if you're going under 3, then you're not going to see the results that you want, right? And to me, when I say at least 3 times a week, I'm saying by yourself. I'm not including practice when you actually go to practice with your team. That's not included. I'm saying when you're by yourself, you're working on these things. So that's pretty much a point. And I've had some that they, for some reason, they don't see the ability to work. They can only have one extra day of work outside of that training, and it is what it is. And I just tell them, look, as long as you're okay and comfortable and you see some improvement, I'm fine with it. I don't like to have kids with us that aren't really trying to work hard and improve, you know, because you have to do that if you want to get better. But I can understand some people are like, it's they're not trying. And I don't say I'm gonna make you the next Michael Jordan or Kobe or Steph. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm trying to put that instill that work ethic into you to where you're gonna go hard, because if that's who you aspire to be, you got to understand how hard those people work. But in any case, we find common ground, and that's what it is. So, answer to the question is between 3 to 5 times a week, with 3 being the lowest, 4 being a very acceptable amount of days to train, and 5 being, hey, that's above average. 6 to 7 is it fantastic, but I know the reality. All right, last thing I'm gonna talk about is to give some mental performance tips. Mental performance, the stress of playing sports. Look, the stress of life these days is more than life is. I don't want to say life is harder. I think mentally in some ways, there's a lot more pressure on people when there shouldn't be pressure on people, uh, than what I felt growing up, right? And with social media, with everybody being is connected, everybody having an opinion. Some people's opinion, isn't is the same as what some other people's opinion is. So now you have people, uh, you know, saying what they say, and it causes stress. So uh, when it comes to sports, these things can be magnified because, like when I mentioned the Caitlin Clark thing, or players in general, when players and look when I talk about low out ball IQ, and when I talk about things NBA wise, I'm not comparing it to the average person. I know that uh, NBA players would wipe the floor with uh, obviously an average person, let alone somebody that's not playing in the NBA. You don't understand, the what they have with them physically, how they're gifted. I'm just talking about when compare stuff, I'm comparing it to the actual game, right? But having said all of that, I understand that you have to have, you know, to hear some of the things that people say to athletes, not just on the professional level, but in college and high school and then the youth. There have been instances where there are parents, you know, talking really bad about a 9 or 10 year old kid in the game. And it can weigh on people. So, the mental performance tip that I would give today would be learning how to put out distractions. You have to find um, something that you really, really, enjoy. It could be the sun, looking up at the sun. It could be, looking at the tree when the tree is kind of blowing in the wind a little. Whatever it is, whatever it is that you pinpoint, and that should be your go-to place. Now, I didn't necessarily figure a go-to place or something. I remember I was able to learn how to tune stuff out in a high school game, a sophomore year, playing in a hostile environment. Everybody's yelling. I get fouled. It's like 1 or 2 seconds left on the clock. We're down one, and I go to the line and I get the ball. And I don't know. Maybe I've told this story before, but I get the ball, and everybody's like yelling, screaming and stuff. I could barely hear the ref give me the ball. He gave me the ball. I could barely hear him saying anything, but he was motioning so I could understand that he was telling me I had 1-and-1 free throws. So I get the ball, and the first thing I'm thinking is, oh my God, it's so loud. I can't hear anything. I take a breath and I looked at the rim, and I swear, after I exhaled and I looked at the rim, I didn't hear any noise. And I kind of stopped. It kind of freaked me out for a second. And I kind of, tilted my head both ways like, where did all the noise go? And then I was focused. So I, did my routine, shot my free throw, knocked it down. And then, I was like, okay, all right, I can louder because now I can't hear you. I'm so locked in that I don't know what it was. I to this day I could never tell you. I just know that was when I found it, and I understood. If I needed to tune something out, I could tune it out by, taking a breath, exhaling, closing my eyes, opening my eyes, and then I was good. So you have to find a way to be able to cut on distractions when you're performing in the game. Most people do. It's rare that you are playing and you're affected by every single thing you hear because you should be focused on the task. But unfortunately, sometimes you can hear some really bad things. And being able to kind of, not focus on it is really key because it can keep you from focusing on it, and letting it bother you can keep you from performing. So you really have to have, I guess I could call it a happy place. A happy place that you can go to mentally that can keep those distractions out. Okay. It's something that you have to just kind of go through and find it. And I'm gonna tell you, I'm sure every player who's played enough has it. They found it. They realize it. Now, when you're standing on the sideline, you hear it because you're not playing. When you're playing, you don't hear it as much. But when you're not playing, you're sitting on the bench, you hear all of those nasty things people say. And maybe we have to start having, that conversation where we teach our players when they're not in the game to be able to tune stuff out. But it's a lot harder because your focus in game is different than your focus when you're on the sideline. Okay, so that's going to be all for today. It's not as long as what, I usually come up with, but didn't want to just keep just talking and talking and talking. I'm trying to talk less. I have had some difficulty scheduling some of the, people that I'm looking at having. It's not working as far as their schedule, so I'm still working on it. I'll get it. Your boy is getting it. Your boy is determined to have one or two people on every month where I can be on Zoom, just so I could see myself talking into the microphone and looking in the camera like, yeah, no, I'm just playing. But look, be sure to like, subscribe, follow, and comment. Let me know what you're thinking. Let me know what you're thinking always. It's always important. All right, so with that, I'm going to end. I hope everybody has a great weekend. Oh, I hope everybody had a great Mother's Day. Well, not everybody. Obviously, men can't have a Mother's Day because they're not mothers. But you know what I mean. The fact that you had that day for your mom, if you're a mom listening, or if your wife was a mom, I hope you took care of her. And I always joke with my wife that, like, I actually is a meme that comes out. It always cracks me up that Mother's Day is like a 5-star restaurant. Father's Day is like a bologna sandwich. I know that's not the way it is, and I appreciate everything, but I hope you guys did appreciate your moms or stepmoms. People who there are people in my life that they don't have kids, but I always try to send them something to tell them, look, you were important in my life. There was advice and guidance that you gave me at one point that was like motherly advice to me. So I always thank you for that, because that term is true. It should take a village. Not everybody's gonna like what you do. So when you're growing up, some people get on you about certain things, and you learn from it. So other than that, I hope everything went well, and I hope that we continue to enjoy each other. Enjoy each other. All right, so that's gonna be it, and I'm gonna leave it like I always do. If it was easy, everyone would be doing it. I'm out.
Street cred sports, say it with your chest. Yeah. Go get it from the net. Street cred sports, okay, that's a bet.